right, there we go. Thank you for joining in. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about how to recover your gut after taking antibiotics. And if you don't know me, again, my name's Katie. I'm a registered nurse, I'm a functional health practitioner, and a nutritional therapist. My specialty is working with patients that have autoimmune disease, and I love talking about gut health. So I'm really excited to talk about this topic today. Anytime that I talk about antibiotics, I have to do a public service announcement about this huge issue that we're seeing in the world today that has to do with antibacterial resistance. And what is happening is that because of the misuse and abuse of antibiotics that's going on, we're creating these superbugs that are resistant to the use of antibiotics. So most likely these are things that you've heard of, things like MRSA, VRE, C. diff. When I first was actually in nursing school about 14 years ago now, these infections were things that were pretty contained to the hospital setting. But now they're spreading into the community, and it's a really scary thing. So definitely something to be aware of. And the problem of antibacterial resistance is multifactorial. So there's a lot of things that contribute to this issue. And the biggest one actually doesn't have anything to do at all with conventional medicine, but it actually has to do with the way that we're treating the animals that we raise for food. So what happens is that we have these large factory farms that are not humanely raising animals. So they are keeping animals in very close quarters. They're never going outdoors. They're not getting sunlight. They're not eating their natural diets. So the animals become ill. They become sick. They develop infections. And what the farmers have done is that they have put antibiotics into their feed prophylactically to try to prevent some of these infections from occurring. So it's a huge issue that ends up trickling down to affect human health as well. Another part of the issue with the development of these antibacterial resistance and these superinfections is in the realm of conventional medicine, where we have the misuse and misprescribing of antibiotics. So antibiotics impact bacteria. They kill bacteria. If you have a cold, a viral infection, or a fungal infection, an antibiotic is not going to help you. This is still a problem, though. We still have providers that are prescribing antibiotics for viral and fungal infections. And then the other part of that problem, too, is that we need to be educating the community about this issue, because we have people who are going into their prescriber's office and they're demanding an antibiotic for something that an antibiotic is not going to help them with. And then another part of the problem is that once people do start their course of antibiotics, they don't finish them. So they're not taking them appropriately according to their instructions. So it's really important if you do get a prescription for an antibiotic and it is something that you really need to take, please finish the course of that medication so that you don't contribute to this problem of antimicrobial resistance. Okay, so enough about that. I'm going to jump into some of my tips for how to recover your gut after taking antibiotics. So the first tip being, of course, make sure that it really is something that you need to be taking. With the community that I work with, the paleo community, there's definitely this aversion or fear of antibiotics, which to some extent is a good thing, because antibiotics have damaged so many of our guts. However, I, for one, am quite glad of the comforts of modern medicine and the opportunity to take advantage of modern medicine when there is truly a need to do so. So just make sure, if you are prescribed an antibiotic, that you truly do need to take that. And then at that point, just move forward. Don't feel too guilty about it. So probiotics are huge when you're trying to recover your gut after taking a course of antibiotics. And I actually encourage my patients to take probiotics while they're taking their course of antibiotics. So you can start that right away. And there's different theories about, the timing of when you should take your probiotics. Should you take it with it or away from it? I think that it's really best to take the probiotic, try to space it out. So if you're taking the antibiotic in the morning, for example, take the probiotic at least in the evening, at least 8 to 12 hours apart from that dose. If you're dosing the antibiotic twice a day, just space it out the best that you can. I'm not going to get into too much about the different strains of probiotics that you can take, other than to mention two ones that I like. The first one, let me see if you can see this, Saccharomyces boulardii. And this is a Jarrow brand. Jarrow is an okay brand of probiotics. It's something that you can get over the counter, which is nice. There are some professional line brands that I actually like more than Jarrow, but Jarrow is not a bad option if you're in a pinch and you do need to get something that's available over the counter. The nice thing about this particular strain of probiotic, so S. boulardii, is that it's actually a yeast, and a yeast is not killed by an antibiotic. So it's a really great probiotic strain to take while you're on an antibiotic, because the antibiotic's not going to kill it. So S. boulardii is a great one. Another probiotic that I really love and that I use a lot in my practice is Megaspore biotic. And Megaspore is a type of probiotic called a spore probiotic. The really great thing about spore probiotics is they have the ability to actually colonize the gut and to change the composition of the gut flora. So other types of probiotics, things like lactobacilli, bifidobacteria, those are transient. So when you take them, they go into your GI system and they do their thing, and then they pass through and they're eliminated through the normal stool process within a couple of days or so. It's not a bad thing. Research still shows that they are effective, and they certainly have their place, but they're not going to actually change the composition of your gut flora. Spore probiotics actually go in and they colonize, and they grow and they stay, and they can do some really amazing things. In my practice, I've had some really great results with Megaspore probiotic, and personally, I have autoimmune disease issues, and I've also experienced some really positive benefits to this particular probiotic. But no matter what probiotic that you choose, I think that it is really important to supplement with a probiotic when you are on antibiotics or after you finish, to try to rebuild your gut flora. Fermented foods are another option. And in the paleo community, there's some controversy about are fermented foods better than probiotics because they're naturally occurring and that sort of thing. I am of the belief that you should actually supplement with a probiotic supplement. Fermented foods are great, but the real benefits of fermented foods come from the nutrients that are produced when you ferment the vegetable. So the wonderful B vitamins and all of those other great nutrients that are in those fermented foods. The probiotics that are in there, again, are very transient, and I don't believe that they necessarily have the therapeutic benefit that an actual probiotic supplement will have. However, vegetables are really important in helping to recover your gut as well. So eating vegetables that have soluble fiber that can actually feed the probiotics that you're trying to foster in your gut, that's really important. So things like starchy tubers, squash, fruits in moderation. You want to make sure that you include some of those foods that do have soluble fiber and prebiotics that actually feed the good bugs that are in the GI tract. Bone broth is another great tip. So bone broth is a traditional food. It's basically, you just take the marrow bones from cows, or you can use other bones as well, lamb, chicken, and you cook it for a period of time. And what it does is it releases all the great nutrients that are in the bones, and then you drink it, and it can be very soothing to your GI system. It has wonderful nutrients like glycine that can help to rebuild your gut after the course of antibiotics. So bone broth is another one of my tips. And then the last point that I want to mention is that antibiotics can be pretty hard on the liver. Really, any medication that you take. The liver's job is to metabolize some of those medications and just toxins in your body in general. So after taking a course of antibiotics, your liver can be a little strained. So anything that can kind of help to support the liver during that time would be great. One of my favorites is milk thistle, and it's an herb. You can make it as a tea, or you can also take it as a supplement, and it can be very healing and soothing to the liver and to your body after taking that course of antibiotics. All right, guys, well, thanks for hanging in there with me during my first experience with Periscope. I hope that you join me again. I'm going to be periscoping more. My message is basically about simplifying your health, your food, your fitness, and your life. Looking at it through an ancestral health lens. So thanks for joining again.